going back to humanity, I like to think as well that our feelings are there to serve us. And so my anxiety is trying to communicate something to me. But when I'm in like this machine mode and on go, it's like, oh, I have to shove it away. It has like, why are you here? It's just slowing me down. But if we slow down and get into our humanity, we actually can listen and kind of figure out, what is it trying to communicate with me? Okay, fear, you're here. What are you trying to communicate? Are you communicating that I feel a little bit incompetent? Anxiety, you're here. Are you trying to communicate that maybe I should just kind of stay present and be in this moment? Anger, you're here. Are you trying to communicate that I kind of lacked on my boundaries and somebody just, they're walking all over me right now? And so we really have to figure out, let our feelings work for us.
Good morning, guys. This is Sierra from the Legacy Speaks podcast, your emotional wellness coach and licensed professional counselor. Today, I'm bringing you another amazing conversation with another phenomenal clinician. And I'm super excited because we've been following each other on Instagram for quite some time. And I love her content. I love what she does in this space. And so before I even get all super excited, y'all, I want to introduce you guys to Abriel Farrow. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist. So Abriel, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you let the people know a little bit about you as well as your practice as well?
Okay. As you said, my name is Abriel Farrow. I go by AB, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I love to clear up just kind of like the meaning of that, because some people say, oh, I'm not married, so you're not for me, or it's not relational. But that's exactly what it is. When you hear a licensed marriage and family therapist, it's not about who we serve, but how we serve. A very much relational approach. So just to clear that up, I'm a LMFT. I have been in private practice now I'm going on my second year. My practice is called, I know, right? Transparent Truth Counseling Services. And I specialize with working with people who wants to live life on their terms. A lot of my clients, they, feel like, am I getting ahead of the question?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. A lot of my clients, they deal with, feeling like they're not enough. They deal with like a lot of shoulds, like I should be doing this, I should be doing that, kind of tying back into the whole I'm not enough thing. So they experience a lot of anxiety, a lot of overwhelm. And so I help them let go of those unrealistic expectations so they can live the life that they deserve.
Oh, absolutely. Y'all better tap into Abriel because she's doing some dope things immediately. Like there are a couple of keywords, right? Unrealistic expectations, and then like also unlearning some of the things that we've experienced over time, right? And so can you go into some of the unrealistic expectations that you often see within the population that you serve and how that impacts the way that they view themselves and maybe even how they show up in the world around them?
Oh, that's loaded. That's good. Okay, so the number one thing is I have to be on and I have to do it all of the time. That is in there, especially for Black women, like the whole strong Black woman syndrome. We're not allowing ourselves to feel. We're always on go. We don't have time for anything other than productivity, taking care of our kids, just kind of just doing everything else for everybody else. And so a common theme is that most of my clients are on machine mode.
Hey, lovely. Shout out to you because I know mental and emotional wellness is important to you. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. But lean in really quickly because I know sometimes it's really hard to create a plan and actually sticking to it. So let's take your mental health to another level. Ever wonder what keeps you from fully executing? Ever wonder how you can build the confidence for decision making? Well, guess what? You're not alone and I'm here to help. So head over to mentalhealthgoals.com for your free mental health plan. It'll give you practical strategies for addressing your current mental health needs. But first, you got to tap in. So head over to mentalhealthgoals.com to receive your free mental health action plan today. Do it right now. mentalhealthgoals.com. See you soon.
they do not know how to be who they were born to be, a human. Like, what is humanity? What is that? And so a lot of them face that, like, if I'm slowing down, that means, I'm not productive. That means I'm not enough. If I don't have this, or if I haven't achieved this by this age, then I'm not enough. Who am I? And so they're basically just taking all these narratives that somebody said from somewhere, somebody else's fears, somebody else's desires, right? And they're taking these narratives and holding it dear as their own. And so they're experiencing this anxiety and overwhelm, because if I'm human, but I'm trying to be on machine mode, humanity is going to win every time. The humanity is going to catch up with you. And so now I'm anxious about not being human, like trying not to be human. My humanity is trying to tell me, relax, slow down, give yourself grace, all of these things. But it's like, no, we're going to cut that off, machine mode, but machines break.
Oh, y'all. Oh my gosh. I try. First of all, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, obviously you only get to see one speaker at a time, but I'm over here like cheesing, okay? Because I feel like like you mentioned, a number of us are experiencing this all the time, especially within this society, right? So we're trying our very best to keep up with the Joneses, or maybe even like learn how to survive in this economy, or maybe even trying to fulfill things that we've set out to do years ago. We might feel like we're, like you mentioned, not enough, or we're behind based upon timelines that don't even exist or are not even relevant anymore. And one thing that you said was like, humanity is always going to win. And we forget that. We forget like how strong and fragile we are, how innovative yet vulnerable at the same time. Like, we forget that we can live in the both and for whatever reason, like our mind is just trying to get rid of the things that we deem as shortcomings instead of leveraging those as strengths.
Absolutely. That was beautifully said. Yes. 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. So can we talk about leveraging strength-based techniques, especially as we are redefining our narratives? Like, how do you approach helping clients explore their strengths so that they can, one, make peace with the present, because we understand that mindfulness is so important in this process. Mm-hmm. So how do we help clients leverage those strengths?
So what I do first is so the process is for me to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think there's a lot of strength in the learning. Like, in learning, where did I get this idea from? Is this cultural? Is this, for example, can I give an example? So one of the things I see a lot is women who are 30 but not yet married. And they're feeling like, I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not working out enough. Maybe I'm not eating right. Maybe I need to wear more makeup, do all of these external things. And then they have this family presence that's like, yeah, you should do this because you should be married by now, right? Right. So the learning is a common theme. I find is that they start to learn that it's not that their parents just also want them to be married because they should be. They learn that their parents' marriage for their parents for their kid is safety for their parent. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It does.
It's protection for their parents, because when you take yourself back to that generation, if I marry my child off, I can relax, right? Because the man is going to be the protector now, and she doesn't have to worry and things like that. So it's strength in learning, like, oh, she had to think like that. That worked for her. And so the strength is I get to decide, is that my reality? Does it have to be that way for me? How do I see protection? Do I see protection in marriage? So it's not like, oh, you got to be married. It's, my mom is saying, like, you got to be protected.
Mm-hmm.
Marriage. It's strength in the in the learning. And then you go about the unlearning and then the relearning.
Immediately when you broke that down, I thought about how a lot of people view money right? Especially intergenerationally, right? Like for individuals who grew up in the Depression, the way that they approach money is completely different from the individuals who grew up in maybe even the 70s and 80s versus individuals who have grown up in the 2000s. And so what I'm hearing is a huge part of the learning and unlearning perspective is one, becoming a lover of history. And, you know, even we're doing the things that we do as clinicians, genograms are so important. So putting it down on paper, seeing what patterns are existing within our family or maybe even within our social groups, and then seeing how those patterns have like went from generation to generation and maybe what helped to fuel the maintenance of that particular pattern, or what also helped with the deconstruction of that particular pattern because times change. And even then, when we're talking about redefining our narratives and learning things, another part that I'm thinking about is getting good with developing your relationship with time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you no, go ahead. Yeah. Can you speak on that? Like how do you incorporate that concept of time when it comes to the healing journey?
Hey y'all, it's Sierra. Make sure you head over to shoplegacysbks.com to check out the latest gear. As always, we have the classic therapy is dope crew neck as well as tees. So head over to cop your crew neck today. It comes in heather navy, that cardinal red, as well as that beautiful gold that we love to see. So head over to purchase yours, not only for yourself, but also for a friend as well. And we are offering free shipping right now. So head over to shoplegacysbks.com to cop all of your therapy's dope gear and check out all the other additional merch as well.
Once we reach a destination, listen, it's always something else. And so if we have this relationship with time where it's just like it has to be this way at this moment, it's just like it causes, I feel, more anxiety and overwhelm because if the timeline run out, okay, then who am I? Like, did I not make another, am I not enough because this was the time set and I surpassed that time? And so it just creates more, anxiety and overwhelm that we just feel like we would then have to overcome that.
I
Yeah.
agree. Like, yo, this is crazy because even when you're talking about like the concept of like when we run out of time, you start to question who you are as an individual. Like, am I good enough? Have what I've learned along this journey, is it even relevant anymore? And you
Yeah.
know, when we talk about anxiety, a lot of people think about, okay, anxiety is the fear of the future, when in fact, anxiety is the fear of like a loss of control over a set of circumstances, or maybe even concern about like these life-threatening phobias. And so when I thought about what you said in terms of like, who am I? That creates a sense of like a threat to one's well-being. Feeling like you're in limbo or like some level of uncertainty that creates this level of vulnerability that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. And I appreciate the work that you do with clients because even though they're unpacking and shedding layers that are no longer relevant to the space that they're in, you help them recognize that even in the midst of uncertainty, there is still strength. Even in the midst of you still trying to figure it out, you're a-okay in this space. And interestingly enough, like a couple of days ago, like you mentioned, always having to be on, I had been sick for a couple of days and I just was just like, no, body, I need you to get your life together so that we can like execute every single thing. And God was like, why are you uncomfortable with just sitting? And I was like, oh, Jesus.
Right.
That's so true. And so for anybody who is listening to this, if you ever struggle with being on or you feel like you're pressuring yourself in the season of your life, ask yourself, what about what you're experiencing is uncomfortable for you? Why do you feel so uncomfortable with just sitting and resting? Like, Abriel, can you speak to that, especially as like a woman on the move and doing her thing? How have you been able to navigate like those seasons of your life where you feel like you have a timeline to meet, or maybe you have certain goals to meet by a specific deadline?
Yeah, you have to remember that rest and I would even redefine nothing, but I usually say that rest and doing nothing, or being still and doing nothing, are not synonymous. We feel like if I'm just sitting here, like I'm just blowing past time, I could be doing this, I could be doing that. But back to your humanity needs rest. And if you're going to produce, rest will allow you to produce with passion and not out of necessity. You know what I'm saying? And so I think we have this relationship with rest as if it's like we're wasting time, but it actually fuels us. And rest isn't like this thing where I'm doing nothing. It's very intentional. Rest is giving myself grace. Rest is allowing myself to be reflective, getting to know who I am outside of what I do. Oh, that is a thing. That's a whole thing. And so, yeah. And it's something you said that I thought about when we talked about anxiety and what it is. Going back to humanity, I like to think as well that our feelings are there to serve us. And so my anxiety is trying to communicate something to me. But when I'm in like this machine mode and on go, it's like, oh, I have to shove it away. It has like, why are you here? It's just slowing me down. But if we slow down and get into our humanity, we actually can listen and kind of figure out, what is it trying to communicate with me? Okay, fear, you're here. What are you trying to communicate? Are you communicating that I feel a little bit incompetent? Anxiety, you're here. Are you trying to communicate that maybe I should just kind of stay present and be in this moment? Anger, you're here. Are you trying to communicate that I kind of lacked on my boundaries and somebody they're walking all over me right now? And so we really have to let our feelings work for us. Because when we shut it out, then it's just like we're going back into machine mode.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like, I appreciate the personification of emotions, because like I always tell clients, let your emotions enter the chat, because they have something to say in this conversation. Like, welcome them to the table, because anytime we try to like box them up and put them away, unaddressed emotions show up in other ways, and they can be more of a hindrance or more of a slowdown. We get so much from like being aware, and there's a gap in between awareness and action. And if we don't have the necessary information from our emotions, if we don't sit and process them, then we're just acting immediately. We're acting from a place of like a lack of awareness. And so thank you so much for the way that you so beautifully said that. And even with the concept of rest, just reminding individuals that rest is an actual action. It's something, like you mentioned, that we have to intentionally do. And so rest can look like taking a nap. It can look like going outside and enjoying the weather. Rest can look like, okay, well, how do I reorganize my thoughts, or maybe even reorganize the systems in my life so that I can have more rest? I was listening to another podcast that was saying that if we are ever going to do deep work, we need to dedicate at least 4 hours of deep work and then go ahead and create space for us to do more. And I was just like, you know what? That's not going to happen in this capitalist society. That's not. But in reality, like, all of these systems were created so that we can produce more. As a matter of fact, the reason why we have our 8-hour workday was because of the factories from back in the day, right? None of those factories really even exist. So I think it's very beautiful how you are very intentional of like helping people unlearn certain things. And even with this conversation, I'm like, history really does matter. We have to get down to the nitty-gritty of like, where did this come from and why are we still maintaining these belief systems?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so can you go into some of the products and services that Transparent Counseling has as well?
Yes. So I do individual therapy with adults. They're typically women. I'm open to seeing men, but typically, women just kind of gravitate. And so adults, and then family therapy with adult family members. Those are my two services. And for a therapist, I do case consultations where, as clinicians, sometimes we get stuck. Sometimes we're looking at it too closely. So we have to bring it out some. And so I offer that service for therapists as well.
Oh, absolutely, y'all. If there's any type of like case that you need to run by, please hit up Abriel because she is on it. Okay. So many bars in this particular episode. If there's anything that resonated with you guys, please make sure that you're liking, commenting, and sharing. And make sure that you're also tagging us. Abriel is at Abriel Farrow. And I'm at Legacy SBKS on everything. So make sure that you're enjoying all of these things and sharing it with everybody. Abriel, do you have any closing thoughts with our viewers?
Closing thoughts. If you are on the fence about should I go to therapy, listen, it is a thing. I know right now, a lot of people feel like they're getting therapy from, little TikTok clips or IG and all of the things. Those are great resources. Even this podcast, everything I'm saying, it sounds good, but it looks so much different in the room because so many other parts of you come up and it just kind of intertwine. Because I even thought for myself, like, if people think like, AB just tell me to be human and that's it. No, it's not this. It's a deeper process. So if you are on the fence, give it a try. And also don't give up in searching for your therapist. Because it's just like trying on your clothes, trying on shoes. It won't, sometimes it matches, sometimes it doesn't. So don't give up on the journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Closing thoughts as a wrap up. Don't give up on your journey. Take your time. It's a process, and make sure that you are getting the help that you need from the right individual. Don't settle for TikTok. Please don't settle for TikTok, y'all.
It's the watch though.
Okay. And so you already know that this is the Legacy Speaks podcast. I ask this question of all my guests. What would you like your legacy to say about you?
Oh my goodness. That I was transparent.
Oh.
My business name Transparent is just indicative of so many different meanings, but just to your question, it's personal to me because I feel like God called me to transparency because there's just so many things that people feel like, oh, this is just me. And so I live a life of transparency and showing my humanity so that people can say, oh, I can do that. That's allowed. That's okay. I can be human. So transparency.
Oh, absolutely. Y'all, please make sure that y'all are tapping into all things Abriel. Can you let the people know where they can find you?
On Instagram and TikTok, I am Abriel Farrow, Abriel Farrow, and my website is www.transparenttruthcounseling.com. And on Facebook, I am under Transparent Truth Counseling Services.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning into another amazing episode. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and definitely stay connected via Legacy SBKS on everything. Once again, my name is Sierra Hillsman, licensed professional counselor and emotional wellness coach. I'll see you next time.